Good morning, Magic the Gathering fans. My condolences to Jeweled Lotus collectors and players around the world. Today we're going to do a quick discussion on the recent banning of Jeweled Lotus, Crypt, Dockside Extortionist, and Nadu Winged Wisdom. 4 cards that were recently added to the ban list for Commander format, which is a casual format that people just play in their kitchens, and LGS is on Commander night. But people love Jeweled Lotus, including myself. I always thought anything that was related to the Black Lotus would be collectible over time. As you know, the Black Lotus was drawn by Christopher Rush in '93 for the Alpha set. It was reprinted in Beta. It was reprinted again in Unlimited, and the price kept coming down, and collectors got upset at the time. How could Wizards reprint an expensive card, a valuable card? So they created the reserve list back then, which protected the secondary collectible value of the Black Lotus. It also prevented Wizards from reprinting the Black Lotus in identical function going forward. So it took 25 years for that to sort of happen. With the release of Commander Legends, they created a card called Jeweled Lotus, which let people cast their Commander only, so it was only playable in Commander, but it was very similar and iconic and reminiscent of the Black Lotus from Alpha. So for that reason, I started to collect Jeweled Lotuses back in 2020. I purchased several cases of Commander Legends, opened up a lot of boxes trying to pull Jeweled Lotuses. This was before my YouTube channel, so I opened up several copies before starting a YouTube channel, and then after starting a YouTube channel, I still even opened up Commander Legends, chasing the legendary Jeweled Lotus, which was trading for like $75 to $100. In the description below, I'll link my playlist to Commander Legends Draft Booster boxes if you want to see me chasing the Jeweled Lotus. It was a very fun card to open at the time. It might still be in the future someday. I will also say that the ban list can change from time to time, so even though they banned those 4 cards today, there's a possibility they get unbanned in the future. If you look at the history of the banned list, Black Vice was even banned back in the early 90s. It was such a powerful card back then. Necropotence was banned at one point. So that can change. Don't get your hopes down too much if you invested in those cards and you want to keep playing them. I probably would hang on to them until they rebound, or until other rules or other cards get printed that affect the price of those cards. I sold my Jeweled Lotuses when they were about to come out with Commander Masters. If you recall, Commander Legends also contained a reprint of Vampiric Tutor, which was a powerful card in the game and still is. But for those of you who haven't seen the original printing of Vampiric Tutor, this is a Visions copy from 1996 by Gary Leach. Costs 1 black, it's an instant. You pay 2 life, you search your library for 1 card, you shuffle your library, and then you put that card on top of your library. So it's a very good card. Not as good as Demonic Tutor, but when you combine Vampiric Tutor with Mystical Tutor and Demonic Tutor, Enlightened Tutor and Worldly Tutor possibly in the same deck, it enhances your ability to search for cards and tutor them up and cast them when you need them. So anytime a card gets reprinted, it drops the price of the original printing just a little bit. It's by design. Wizards trying to make cards that are playable, more cost effective for players that want to open them up in new product, so they don't have to go on the secondary market and pay $30, $40, $50, $60 to $100 for their favorite cards that are no longer in print. But when Wizards came out with Commander Masters a couple years ago, I knew that Jeweled Lotus was going to be reprinted inside a Commander Masters, so I let go of all my Jeweled Lotuses and decided it's not worth collecting modern Magic cards that are not reserve list, because there's a high possibility that they could get reprinted. I was not considering the fact that Jeweled Lotus would ever get banned from the ban list. That is just something that was not in my bingo card at the time. I just didn't think they could do it, but they did it, and people are talking about it today, obviously. So I would say, luckily, I don't have 15 copies of Jeweled Lotus. Condolences to those store owners that are sitting on 15 copies of Jeweled Lotuses, but perhaps it'll come back. Perhaps people just play it casually, like they do old school Magic cards. But when Commander Masters came out, they did reprint Jeweled Lotus, and it did drop in price a little bit. That's when I let go of my Jeweled Lotuses, and I put some of them into other, just more vintage cards that I thought were iconic. One of the cards that I started picking up around that time too was called Mana Vault. Mana Vault is similar to Jeweled Lotus and similar to Mana Crypt, which is the card that also got banned this month. Mana Vault has art by Mark Tedin. I have a couple copies in revised. These I was picking up for maybe $45, $50 a couple years ago. They've gone up in price a little bit. They were also reprinted in 4th edition. You could pick up 4th edition cards for less than the revised price. But the revised Mana Vault, it costs 1 colorless mana, and you would tap it, and you can add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool, similar to like a Black Lotus or Jeweled Lotus, but with colorless mana. The only drawback to this card is that it does not untap normally during your untap phase, and so in order to untap it, you have to pay 4 mana during your upkeep. And if Mana Vault remains tapped, if you don't pay the mana, it does 1 damage to you, and you drawing mana from this artifact is played as an interrupt, so you can use it at any time. There are other cards in the game that you can use to untap it. Icy Manipulator untaps artifacts, Twiddle untaps artifacts. So you could use that to avoid having to pay the 4 colorless mana. You could use that to avoid taking the 1 damage. And there are enchantments like Circle of Protection artifact that will prevent damage from artifacts, which you can use to prevent that 1 damage each turn if you want to build a deck around those cards. But those are some cards that I think will benefit maybe from the Mana Crypt being banned in Commander. Subsequently, Double Masters 2022, speaking of reprints, they reprinted Mana Vault in Double Masters 2022. So I think maybe going forward, Double Masters 2022 will see a rise in value for players that are trying to use Mana Vault instead of Mana Crypt. The last Mana Crypt story that I can think of was back at the Grand Prix, when they were called Grand Prix before they were called Magic Cons, and back before they were called Magic Fests, they were called Grand Prix. I saw a vendor that had an entire brick of Mana Crypts, which was a book promo in the early mid-90s. The Arena novels would insert promo cards into the books, and Mana Crypt was a card drawn by Mark Tedin, which is one of his most popular cards. Anytime I go to a Magic Con and get cards signed by Mark, just like that, he's usually altering somebody's Mana Crypt book promo. Just a sweet card. And so they would insert it into these books. It's risen $100 in price over the years. And I saw a vendor that had a very rare, scarce collectible as an entire brick wrapped in cellophane of Mana Crypt book promos. That was probably like $5,000 if there's 50 to 60 copies of Mana Crypt in one brick. So I thought that was kind of unique, but they've subsequently reprinted Mana Crypt a couple times with different artworks. Kaladesh, I think, had an Inventions Mana Crypt in there as well. But today we lay Mana Crypt to rest and maybe look towards Mana Vault. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about the recent banning. Let me know what you would pick up at MagicCon Las Vegas. I'll be there later this month, maybe next month, in a couple weeks from recording this video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear my discussions on Magic the Gathering and draft box openings. I'll link the playlist below so you can see me open up the Jeweled Lotuses. Let's relive the glory one more time until it gets unbanned. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for liking. It helps with the algorithm. I'll see you in the next video.